Good morning, and welcome to Coffee with Coach. This morning I want to talk to you about preaching from a 12-month calendar. I know, that's kind of crazy, right? A whole 12 months? But there's a bunch of good reasons why you should think about doing that. I'll talk about those, and I'll share a special gift with you later on. I'm Steve Petty, and these videos have 3 goals. 1, to help you become a better pastor and leader. 2, to save you time and money. And 3, to educate, motivate, and energize you so that you can motivate and energize your church. Today's coffee cup comes from the Meeker United Methodist Church, where my son Dave is the pastor. Hi, Dave. If you'd like to have your church's coffee cup featured on Coffee with Coach, send me an email. We'll be in touch, and maybe you can be on the video with your cup. I hope you find Coffee with Coach valuable. And if you do, you might want to subscribe to these videos. Just click that red button down there below the screen. And that way, every time you come on YouTube, it'll tell you when I've got a new video. It's free to subscribe. As I've been coaching with churches around the country, one of the problems I continually hear preachers complain about is what to preach about next Sunday. What should we be talking to our congregations about? This is a problem. It takes up a lot of time and energy every week creating a brand new sermon. But there's a better way. And I'd like to talk about it with you today when I talk about preaching on a 12-month calendar. There are 4 good reasons why you should think about preaching on a 12-month calendar. I'm going to give you all 4. And if you stay tuned all the way to the end, I've got a gift for you. First of all, if you preach to a 12-month calendar, you can preach to the arc of the year. Now, everything has an arc. If you read a novel, there's an arc to the novel. You watch a TV show, there's an arc to the TV show. If you look at the calendar year, there's an arc to the calendar year. So which calendar year do you want to use for your preaching schedule? You can use January to December, certainly popular. All of our printed calendars work that way. Or you might decide you're going to use the liturgical calendar, go from Advent all the way to Christ the King Sunday. There's a value in that too. Or you might decide that the calendar year really doesn't cut it for you and you want to use a fiscal year. Go from July 1 to June 30th. That's okay too. There's a natural arc, follows the school year pattern, from a low period in the summer to all that activity with Advent and Lent and Easter, and then it slows down to Pentecost and off into the summer again. However you decide to preach, think about what is the arc of the year and how do you preach to that arc. One of the reasons you should think about the arc of the year is because it allows you to think about where you want to move your congregation. When you preach to them, you're trying to help them to find God, but you're trying to help them to be this church. You're trying to help them become the church that you would like them to become. And so you're trying to motivate them and move them. So think about the 12-year pattern in terms of where do I want this congregation to be in a year? How can I motivate them? How can I move them? Every week is an opportunity to nudge them a little bit further. So think about the arc of the year and think about your all-year planning as an opportunity to plan on how to move the congregation through the power of the gospel and the power of your preaching. Second reason you should think about preaching on a 12-month calendar is that it will save you time. Yeah, indeed, it will take a few days to get it all lined out. In fact, I usually set aside 2 to 3 days to sit down with my calendar and think about that arc and plan for the whole events for the year. When I do that, it takes a big chunk of time. But then, every week going forward, when I come in on Monday morning, I open up that calendar and I know exactly what I'm going to be preaching on. I know the theme, I know the scripture, I know 1 or 2 points. Maybe I've set aside some illustrations. I know the music that will be used. I know what the band is doing. I know what groups are performing. I know everything that's going on with that Sunday well in advance. So it saves me a whole lot of time. I don't have to create everything every week. I only have to fill in the blanks. So preaching from a 12-month calendar can save you a lot of time. The third reason to preach from a 12-month calendar is that it helps the whole team. Now, you may have a small team. Maybe the team in your church is just you and the pianist. I served a church like that, not a lot of staff. But I did coordinate with the pianist exactly what I was going to be preaching on well in advance, so she could have the music that kind of lined up. Last church I served, I had a staff of over 15 with 5 choir directors. Keeping all of those people on the same channel took a lot of work. But because I preached on a 12-month calendar, they were all eager to get their work done. It allowed everybody to be contributing at their highest level with their best creativity. Everyone on the team was immensely happier knowing what was coming up long time in advance. So preaching for the 12-month calendar can really help your whole team. It's really an important thing. I'll tell you a story. I once was talking with a young woman who produced documentaries. She was nationally known, amazing work she did. And after listening to her talk about all the documentaries that she'd done, she said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of like a producer." She looked at me with a furrowed brow and said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, every single week, and sometimes twice a week, I produce a brand new 1-hour program, completely uniquely scripted. I do live music, have several acts, and I do a 20 to 25 minute stand-up routine every week, brand new, fresh." She went, "Wow, that's impressive. What do you do?" "Well, I'm a local church pastor." Getting everybody on board with your plan for that production will make them happy and allow you to do the best job you can of your part, the preaching. The fourth reason to think about preaching from a 12-month calendar is the integrity of worship. What do I mean by integrity of worship? I mean that the theme that you've set for that Sunday is carried over into all the parts. Preaching from week to week, or even month to month, it's harder to get all of those elements lined up to be perfectly thematically coordinated. Just think about one aspect. Think about the choir. How long does it take a choir director to prepare to preach the perfect anthem for your sermon? In truth, about 3 months. So the choir director gets your list and goes through all of those themes and scriptures, and the choir director thinks, "Oh, well, we really don't have that music in our library." Goes on to a website, looks at all the music that might be available, what anthems really speak to that, finds the perfect anthem. Okay, that takes a couple days. Finds the perfect anthem, orders it. The website has to find that music, has to ship it to him. That takes a few more days. By the time that the music comes in, and sometimes it can take a month, then the choir director has to get all the music stamped and numbered and turned around and ready to go out to the choir. The choir has to get the music and they have to learn it. That takes another 6 to 8 weeks to really perfect an anthem with all the nuances that go into that music. So in order for the choir director to have the perfect anthem that matches your theme, the choir director needs to know at least 3 months in advance. Think about that in terms of the whole year. If you keep changing your themes from week to week or month to month, you're never going to get the music that's perfect. But when you do, when you work in advance, you work long term, all of those pieces can come together. Your liturgy, the hymns, the anthems, all of the decorations in the sanctuary, everything can come together and you have a beautiful thematic presentation, like a production. And what does it do? It allows you to preach the perfect sermon. All of those things augment and enhance the message that you're bringing. So when you do those things in advance and get all of them coordinating together, you have the best chance of having a successful worship experience. When the congregation experiences a worship service that has that kind of integrity of theme every single Sunday, they know that there's an effort going on, and they feel that effort, and they feel the power of your message because it's being communicated through all of those elements, and your preaching improves dynamically because you're preaching off of a 12-month calendar and telling everybody on your team well in advance. That integrity of worship is one of the things that will help your services to attract new people and your congregation to grow. Now, you've stayed with it the whole time, and I promised you a gift. I routinely worked off of a 12-month calendar, but I created one. So I'm going to share that with you. You can go to my website. The link is there on the screen. And you can download a 12-month calendar for 2021. I realize you've missed a couple weeks, but you've got all those other weeks coming up. It's pretty obvious once you pull it down and start looking at it what all of those elements are. But if you got any confusion, I'm going to produce another video that I'll describe all of those columns and how I use them. That'll be coming tomorrow. So check out that video as we talk more about how to preach off a 12-month calendar. And as always, as I said, if you like this video and you find it useful, click that red button in the corner and subscribe. Every week we'll have a new video on Monday mornings, and next week we're going to talk about leadership. I hope you'll join me for Coffee with Coach next week.